Hey cats, it's your midsole man, Eddbud here. Today my footwear friends, my trusty Meow Maker and I, Lieutenant Beast, we're going to hop into the G-Wagon that is the Nissan Micra, fitted with a flux capacitor, and we're headed back in time to a world where there was no Vaporfly next percent. The Alphafly was just a twinkle in Kipchoge's eye, and we'd only just heard of Zoomx back then. It was called Styrofoam. I'm joking, of course, the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit, or at least the 4% just before it, was the one that broke all the molds. I picked up this pair back in 2018. It was the best of the best back then in terms of carbon spatulas, and the grip was so good it almost sounded like a suction cup. How does this foot sheath hold up against some of the shoes within my current rotation in 2024? Let's take an eagle-eyed goosey gander. Thanks for stopping by, people. Grab yourself a cup of green tea, maybe a couple of custard creams as well. Hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already, and also give this video a thumbs up like. Also comment to help us beat the algorithm. You know what to do, Team Eddbud. Dankeschön. So the 4% Flyknit here, I've dug it out of the archive. A lot of the paint's kind of falling off, but it got me wondering, just how good is this shoe now in 2024? Like 6 years after release, can it still actually hold its own against some of the new shoes? So the 4% Flyknit here, it's sleek like Steve Stone. Super light, 231 grams or 8.1 ounces in my UK size 11 or US size 12. Had a quick look, this pair were manufactured, I think, in September 2018. There's about 200 miles into these now. They're nice and worn, a little bit like a 50s Les Paul. I got 37 millimeters of stack height in the heel, and there's about 28 in the forefoot. So it's about a 9mm drop. I reckon some of that in the heel was compressed down a little bit, so maybe it was a little bit higher to begin with. I wouldn't suggest it feels any less aggressive than some of the current super shoes that we've got. I did measure the rubber sections in terms of the durometer. I'm getting about 50 up front, so it's a little bit softer. It's almost like a rubbery foam up front, and about 65 in the heel. Those seem to be a little bit tougher. The midsole itself comes in Short A durometer score of 21. That is very, very low, very soft. So lower the number, the softer the material. And there's quite a lot of paint that covers some of the midsole here. That's flaking away and peeling off. There's sections of the midsole, in fact, that don't have any paint on at all, which have just sort of fallen off these exposed bits here in the outsole. I've got about 11.3 centimeters here in the widest point of the forefoot, and about 8.2 in the heel. So it's certainly a very narrow shoe back here in the heel, and incredibly narrow in the arch area here. I'll do it as a typical review. This one upper first. Remember, this is at 200 miles and it's been stored away for some time. I absolutely love the Flyknit here that we've got in the 4%. It's stretchy yet still very conforming. I wouldn't suggest it's perhaps the most breathable of options, these days when you've got this sort of paper thin type material they're using, but I really like it. It's nice and comfortable, almost feels like a sock around your foot. I found it needed very little lace pressure here to get a good lockdown, although I have switched out the laces here to some slightly more flexible ones. I do recall, years and years ago now, in the Gakuso version of these, I did have a little bit of discomfort, I suppose, towards the initial eyelets with those sort of very rigid laces, so swapped them out, and these are great. They're actually from the Endorphin Pro 4. Matches the colour almost perfectly. One thing they could do to improve this is actually put in an extra set of eyelets at the end here, so you could do a runner's knot. You've just got to rely on, lacing up quite tight here to get a good lockdown. A simple hole or two or something could have solved that problem perhaps. Now the upper material is super durable here. There's no signs of wear whatsoever on the shoe. It's also very easy to clean as well. You get your rejuvenator out and the medium bristle brush, and you can soon get rid of all the grime. I think that upper wise, this shoe is still an absolute treat. It's one of the best ever. I mean, just look at it. What a beautiful looking shoe. That icy blue swoosh, which is on the lateral, and then a smaller one on the medial side. Nothing else, no weird colours or anything. It's where Nike used to just keep it really simple. The stretchy knit that we've got on the tongue area is very, very similar to what we've got on the Alphafly 3, in fact, right now. The upper's pretty much pristine, really. There's no wear at all. It's not falling apart or anything, and it just about keeps you on top of that midsole when you're going around corners. I've done a couple of runs in these recently, and yeah, going around corners at pace is exciting. That's all I'm going to say. We've got to talk about the midsole now. Okay, so midsole wise, clearly it's not exactly what it was when it came out the box, but it's still a really nice ride. It's compressive. It's not overly squashy. In fact, it seemed to improve actually as I ran in it more and more. When I've got it sort of back out of the archive, handles a range of paces really well. I remember people saying at the time of release that these were too unstable if you were a heel striker and things like that. Though I would suggest that you need a reasonably narrow foot to get away with this one. You're just going to be hanging over the edges, especially in the arch area. It's going to be quite uncomfortable. And of course, even in the Vaporfly and especially the Alphafly 3, you've got quite a lot of surface area now compared to this shoe. It does feel very minimal. This one likes going quick, you know, 5k effort. I was trying to run some 10k effort, like 1 kilometer reps. I just couldn't really do it in this shoe. It's really, really difficult. Tried a bit of effort, sort of an unsustainable anaerobic sort of pace as well. It felt fun, it felt exciting. And I found I could switch up the effort levels really quickly in this shoe. It doesn't feel like I've got a massive stuff underneath my foot. It's not really controlling the way I run. Somewhere, I guess, between the Adidas Takumi Sen 10 and like the Saucony Endorphin Speed, maybe. Perhaps somewhere like the Endorphin Pro 3, but certainly the narrowness here is very different. Like I said earlier, we got some significant flaking of the paint and stuff, but it doesn't seem to have affected the shoe whatsoever. In fact, I kind of wonder what the shoe would be like if we didn't have all this extra paint on it and it was just that foam itself. In fact, Zoomx is super fragile anyway with all this paint on it, so why not just remove it and give us the full foam feel? Does it feel drastically outdated or old-fashioned? Not at all. In fact, it feels fantastic. It feels like an absolute banger still. In fact, if they reissued this shoe just as it is, I think that it would sell out. Maybe apart from one detail, and I'm going to talk about that now. Now, the outsole was where people had a lot of problems with this shoe. To ensure I didn't get any further issues, I've used some shoe glue around the back here, certainly on the lateral side of the heel. The paint flakes away and the foam just completely disintegrates back here, especially if you got it wet. It's interesting, isn't it, that they completely ditched this outsole approach when they went to the Vaporfly Next Percent, got rid of these pods here, and especially when it gets wet, you got this sort of suction cup style sound. If you're walking along on some like flat surfaces, it felt really weird. I know that people had these pod sections become dislodged and they just fell off, but that was even happening in some pairs of the Vaporfly 3, so we'll give them a break on that one. The outsole here though in the forefoot is absolutely fantastic, really good grip, and it just barely seems to be worn at all. The little patterns and lines here are still completely intact. I'm quite amazed at that. See, it's looking absolutely fantastic. 200 miles. Now you do get all manner of dirt and debris get caught up in this outsole section in the forefoot and back here where you've got all these cutouts in the exposed foam as well, so you can see why they didn't persist with that, even though it does make the shoe a little bit more compressive. So value wise it's all held up pretty well, hasn't it, really? I think I paid about 160 quid for these when they came out. There was some sort of discount that I managed to add on and got them a little bit cheaper. That seemed like a crazy amount of money as well back then to spend on a pair of shoes. Now, you know, even trainers can be upwards of that. I mean, look at the Hoka Silo X1. That is crazy money compared to this. It still feels like a great shoe on foot, still feels nice and snappy, fits good, and it's fun to run in, so you know, what more do you want? Though anybody that needs a hint of stability in their super shoe is probably going to want to look elsewhere, I think. I don't think it will gel with you unless you're running much faster sessions, maybe some threshold effort when you're getting up on the mid to forefoot. And it's very unstable on turns, especially compared to some of the stuff that we got on the market these days. Still absolutely usable for some faster sessions, and I might even keep it in the rotation now for a little bit, though I think the strimmer would be too mean for this one if I put it on gardening duty. Absolutely no grip on grass either. I do jest, I'm not putting this one anywhere near the strimmer. So value wise, I think not bad at all. It handles pretty much everything I've thrown at it over the last couple of runs, and it feels just as good as some of the stuff I've got in the rotation right now. So if I was to place this into like a tier list, maybe I'll do a few more of these. I think I'll probably put this in tier A for the Nike Zoomx Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. Have you still got a pair of these? Do you still use them in your rotation? How did they hold up over time? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. I've been cleaning up a load of the older super shoes. There's the Adizero Pro from Adidas. Remember that one? I've got an original pair of the Vaporfly Next Percent as well. Metaspeed Sky. And there's a few others as well. So let me know which one you'd like me to test out next as a retro review. Okay, time for a musical interlude. Today coming from Jens Lekman. I've actually got his album up here, modelled by my glamorous assistant. Love this album, Night Falls over $250. Some heavy sampling on this record, if I remember. Can't believe it was released in 2007. I can remember seeing this guy in Minehead at Butlins at a festival. He was absolutely brilliant. He had a huge band as well. Sipping on the sweet nectar is what we're doing today, obviously, with this retro review of the Vaporfly. Best track on here, though, is Shirian. It's all about a lady that was going to cut his hair, who was operating an illegal hairdressers, trying to like circumvent certain laws in whichever country he was in. But one of my most treasured possessions, this one. I love this album. Jens Lekman, around this period, hideously overlooked. Go and check his stuff out. Right, it's about time for me to sign off. Thanks for tuning in today. It's always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Don't forget also to drop us a comment to help with the algorithm. My name's Eddbud and I'll be seeing you